And welcome back to a special feature here for Jackrabbit Illustrated. Joined tonight by Eric Eidsness, offensive coordinator at South Dakota State. For those of you that also follow the blog, you know that this week we covered every day of the week, one of the position groups. I had a chance to interview each of the position coaches and really get some knowledge about this group. And it was a blast getting to do that because there are so many new faces. And then Coach Eidsness has been generous enough with his time tonight to come on the show live and just answer questions. So, Coach, how you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks, Matt, for having me.
Yeah, thanks for being here. Before we jump in, I just have to thank our title sponsor, the Kubota Dealers of South Dakota. 10 different locations across the great state of South Dakota and one in Iowa. So if you need something for your lawn, for your farm, for your business, acreage, whatever it may be, Kubota can hook you up. So very thankful to John Colley and all of the dealers here in South Dakota for their continued support. I think this is the third year of them being our title sponsor. So I know I've put some hours on my lawnmower for sure this year. The grass just won't stop growing. So, but that's a good thing. Also need to thank Northwestern Mutual. Chris Schenkel and his team down in Sioux Falls. Really excited to be partnered with them again this year. Also going to be doing some work with them with Alex's Lemonade Stand. They haven't officially announced who the ambassador is this year yet, but really excited for who it is and to partner with him on this and make sure that we have a Jackrabbit on top of that competition again this year. So as you know, we have some fun things happening this season. The guys have already talked about a little bit. But yeah. So we'll get started here. Coach Eidsness, you're back in Brookings. How's it feel to be back?
It feels great. I think that, the coaching world is such that you never know really where it's going to take you. I've been doing this for quite a while now. This is 31 years of college coaching. So I've been around a lot of different people and been in some different places. And I think, as you go through and you do things in life, you figure out what's important and you figure out what is meaningful to you. And Brookings has obviously been a pretty special place for me, my family. And, as my kids continue to get older, my oldest is a junior, will be a junior at South Dakota State. Then I've got will be a senior son that will go to Brookings High School, a daughter that will be a sophomore at Brookings, and then another daughter will be a seventh grader. And obviously when we moved from here, they're a lot smaller. But it's been, our journey. And I've been, the one thing I have done is for the most part, I've stayed at places, 6 years has been a pretty normal thing for me, which in this business is not a normal thing. And so, but it's been really good, traveling around and doing things. But Brookings has always been, for whatever reason, a landing spot. And I do think that the people here are very special. I think the people of South Dakota, for me, growing up in Sioux Falls, knowing the state, has been a really unique thing to be able to coach close to home and around family. It's been a lot of fun. And that's one thing that was kind of missing the last 6 years, just with family and things to be able to come out and see you. Because in our business, we don't get a lot of opportunities to travel away, and so seeing people once or twice a year was not great. From that standpoint, from a family standpoint. But it's just, I'm excited for Dan and to take over the program and in the direction that he wants to go. And so when we talked, it was a no-brainer for me to want to come back, be around family, be back with the Jackrabbits. And I think that, one thing for me, the last 2 years finishing in the semifinals, one goal I always had was to be a part of the final deal. And we fell short twice. Like to think that we helped them make another step, but until you really do it, that's something that I would like to accomplish before I'm done coaching.
Sounds good. I like that. And we have a former player here, Isaac Rodriguez. Coach E, love you, man. Hope all is well and go Jacks. So, yeah. No, I'm with you. Just so talking to you and Coach Berge and Dan, and just with the program in January when Jimmy announced he was leaving, kind of in a state of flux there. You guys feeling that call to come back and make sure that the program that Coach Stig and all of you helped build continued. I think that's awesome.
Yeah, obviously, there's been some challenges. I think like anything, you put your head down, you go to work, you accomplish, you have a big list of things to do. There's a timeline of things that you want to get done so that, you don't skip any steps along the way. I think the neat thing is, for both Brian and I and Dan, knowing South Dakota State, knowing what has made it successful, kind of the ingredients that Coach Stig used, and being a part of that, I think definitely helped all three of us in identifying kids that are going to fit here, identifying, men of character, football players, guys that love football and want to compete. And I do think that, as we went out and tried to identify kids that were going to fit, kind of, what we've been around here, that we were looking for specific things. And I think that always helps when the head guy and the coordinators are all on the same page. And obviously it'll always be, Dan's final decision on things, but I do think it fell in place pretty well in the time that we had, and we're able to put together a roster in a relatively short period of time. So,
yep. Hey, that's a good transition. So I got a little bit of flack on my preview articles for saying there wasn't enough factual information in my preview articles. And my pushback to that is, well, when I talked to the coaches, a lot of it was still, we'll see. We didn't know. We had spring ball, but we also added some guys. We had some guys that were injured, so we'll see. And so a weekend, what are your initial thoughts of your group right now?
Yeah, really excited about the group. I really am. Just from a overall buy-in, I think the kids that were here in the spring, the buy-in was very strong with what we were doing. I think we've done a really good job of teaching them what we want to do and why, the why behind it. I do think that in today's day and age of college football, the why is really important. And just kids, when I played, this is what you do. Okay, let's go. Well, I think, there's a lot of things out there, right? Like there's the internet, there's X, there's all this stuff where people see things and kids want to know a deeper meaning, and you need to be able to teach them those things and show them how it can turn into, certain results and the stuff behind it. I'm proud of the staff. I'm really excited about, the guys I work with every day and the detail that they go into. And I think that, we showed the kids that, and to their credit, they bought into what we wanted. Now, once they bought in, as we brought in new guys, there was support, right? Like, hey, these guys know what they're talking about, and they're doing things the right way, and we're excited about it. And welcome to the Jackrabbits with the new guys, and they've done a good job of just unconditionally jumping in. And I do think that they, in today's day and age of college football, kids need to find a home. Sometimes it's not what they went into the portal looking for, right? And but that it is what it is. And so there really is no reason not to, but yet, kids don't always do that. So really excited about the buy-in, excited about the work ethic. We've put some pretty high standards of the way we want to practice, whether it be we talk a lot about TNT, things that take no talent, right? Like alignment, assignment, snap count. Those are things that can beat you, and you need to eliminate those things. And guys have worked really hard to do that. We put when you get into alignment and assignment, there's a reason why you line up 4 yards, 6 yards, 8 yards, 2 yards from the numbers, 7 yards deep, quarterback 4.5 yards if you're in the gun, different things. But, we're doing a variety of things, and the guys have just worked hard to master it day one. was good. Day 2 was better. Day 3, first day with some pads on. There's always going to be a little bit not as good, especially on the offensive end, because there's a little more that goes into, putting it all together. And then day 4 was improvement over day 3. Watching film with the quarterbacks the other day, and Chase, honestly, was perfect. And Skelly, he's like, man, that was fun, and that just fires me up. But it was fun because the receivers were where they were supposed to be. The tight ends were where they were supposed to be. The backs got to their spots. When everybody does it together, it looks really, really good, and it can be crisp. It can be clean. It's just really, really good and exciting. And we got into a long third down situation, 3rd and 15, not one you want to be in. And we were able to convert. And those things are big deals, right? Especially when you got guys that haven't played together and done those things, but just, the detail was there, where they needed to be, how they're getting there, the right depth, the timing of the throw, all that stuff. So just seeing things like that. Now, there is always things to work on and to improve on. And, your evaluation or what you got from the coaches is very true. We're not going to anoint anybody until, they kind of show you. And not that they're guilty until proven innocent, but, you got to work with kids and you got to see what's in there. And sometimes there's a lot more than you think. And other times, there's maybe some stuff where you've got to work hard to get them to where you need to be. But offensively, we're going to have some good playmakers. I think the wide receiver group is pretty talented, and we have some good experience. Alex Bullock from Nebraska has come in, and really from the time he got here in the summer and started working, his game has changed a lot. You can tell he hadn't played a lot of football for a year. And, he talked the other night just about he thought football was over. And now it's an opportunity that he wasn't necessarily expecting. And, when Coach Jackson and he were first talking, it just seemed like a great fit. And the kid is really playing well. Graham Goring in my evaluation of watching all the film that he had played in prior to, he has elevated his game. I think for one, he's probably healthier than he's been for a little bit, which obviously helps. But, fundamentally, he's sharper than he's been. He's more detailed in the top of his routes. He's starting to understand how to read coverages and do some things like that. And it's his game is changing, and you can see the excitement as he gets on the field of how he's playing and what he wants to do. Jack Smith, was a promising young guy that had a solid spring and then changed his body. He's in much better shape. He's playing fast and doing some really, really good things. And Lofton, obviously, season very, very strong. But man, the kid we missed him in the spring, but great summer in what he was able to do. And now he's really playing well in fall camp. He still hasn't played much football though, right? Like there's a lot of learning. And so I love what he is. I love, his mindset. The clay to work with is really good, there. And he's just playing at a high level. Isaiah Castanedas has been a little bit limited. He was limited in the spring, but he is going to be fine. And we have a really good feel for what he can do, what we're able to see at this end of the spring when he was doing things. So I feel it. And there's other guys. There's other guys playing well, but that's a bunch of names right there. Of guys that can make plays. And I think that's exciting. When I was here in the past, we always felt like if we had one or two really good playmakers, Jake Winicky for a long time, Jason Schneider, Kate Johnson, obviously then you pair with Dallas Goddard, Dale Moss for a short time, obviously. But, we didn't have near the depth of playmaker that we have right now. So super excited about that group, excited about the way they're working. Coach Bankston is doing a really good job with them. And, they just show up and they buy in. I think competition is healthy, right? And raise your level, but it also, we're going to have more guys that can play at a high level. Super exciting. Tight end room, we've got some really good tight ends.
Coach,
yes.
Coach, can I ask you on the wide receivers? These you listed off a lot of the guys that are going to contribute this year, obviously. And that is a deep group. That's 5-6 guys deep right there that you just talked glowingly about. Jack Smith was open every play of the spring game, it felt like. You also have 4-5 pretty talented freshmen that have been popping up on these highlight videos too.
Yep.
Can you just talk a little bit about those guys and what they're doing?
Yes, really, really excited about that group and where they're at, and we're pushing them. Will any of them be ready week one? We have a long way to go, right?
Sure.
Like, there's a lot of practices, but we're seeing a lot of flashes. We're talking about that group, extremely talented. Obviously Delaney is a kid who comes in with really good speed, productivity at high school. Is learning a lot, and obviously college football is different. It's faster and things are not that he's fast, he's not fast enough, but just, you got to play at your full speed and get it out of you. And so I'm happy with where he's at. Joe Kaliga is really a detailed route runner. He comes in with a good high football IQ. I would liken him a lot to Jack from, knows where to go. Probably might be ahead of Jack at the same age as far as top of the route, played at a high football program in Nebraska, led the state of Nebraska in receiving for the history, which is phenomenal, right? Just really good. Zach Van Meteren, this kid, obviously long, 6'4", 6'5", ran 10.8 in the 100 meters. He's 215 pounds. Like, this kid is going to be really good before it's all said and done. He's got really good ball skills. His stride just eats up ground really fast. And, it's the level of football doesn't matter, right? It's like, you come in and let's develop you. The good thing is nothing really seems to phase this kid. He just kind of goes out and does business. So, really, just some guys that have some really good talents. They have different things that they're good at, that way. And just, we got to see, where they go. Will any of them be ready? I do think this, the developmental piece with being able to play 4 games and not lose a red shirt. If a kid's not ready today, our goal is that we get him ready for the second half of the season, because playoff games don't count either, right? So let's say that we have some older guys, and last year they had some injuries, right, down the stretch, and they could have used some people, right, whatever, young guys, old guys, whatever. But our job is to make sure that if a guy's not ready week one, we get him ready down the road. And if we determine that he needs to be a redshirted guy, my goal is that they get in 3 or 4 games, because just the development, right? And that they're going to have to go through some growing pains. But if you can get open on the scout team and do those things and be great in our individual, by the time we hit week 7 or 8, they might be ready to go, and we may very well need them. So we are pushing them hard right now. We're double repping everything, meaning we've got one group going towards the stig, another one going towards the scoreboard. So in a normal period that we get 24 plays in, we're getting 48 in. And we are developing a lot of bodies. And I think we need to, because we have so many new faces, so many younger guys. And with that in mind, who might we need, right? Like, you just don't know. And Coach Jackson talked about that today in the team meeting, that somebody in that class, multiple guys in that class, we don't know who they are right now, but they're going to make a difference in the season. And so just excited about that group, that's there, and really excited about even the 26 class that's coming in. I think we've identified some good kids, and I think they want to come play for South Dakota State, which is really exciting.
Yeah. You've mentioned him a couple times now, but we haven't had a huge chance. Luke Bankston, wide receivers coach. You found him at University of Virginia Union, a D2 school, and they put up some prolific numbers. How did you find Coach Bankston, and what has he brought to the program, I guess?
Really interesting. So when I was at South Dakota State, before I became the head coach at Southwest Minnesota State, Luke was on an official visit. And then the next week I accepted the job there. So I had been recruiting Luke because I was recruiting Iowa. And I had recruited him. And then after I left, recruiting fell off for him at South Dakota State. He ended up going to Northwest Missouri and playing there. But Luke always said he wanted to coach. And so to his credit, as he got done playing and he went into the coaching, we've always stayed in touch. He always wrote me a note. He shot me some text messages when he was, GAing at places, whether it was UConn or whether it was at Arkansas or wherever it may have been. But Des Moines was home for him, right? And so as he started on his journey, unlike mine, where I've been able to regionally coach and be around more family, Luke wasn't. And it was, I'd talked to him, a few times. And then when we got the job here, I told Dan about Luke and the job he had done at places and the time that, we hadn't coached together, but I kind of watched him from afar and we'd always talked football. And so when I called Luke up to see if he would be interested in interviewing and stuff like that, we talked for about over an hour. Just about things. And that's usually the way, our conversations had gone when we talk ball. But, it was good. He wanted to get back this way. Same thing, be around family. His wife's from Chicago. He had some offers to be a coordinator at some FCS schools, but chose to come to South Dakota State, and super excited about that. Very knowledgeable, very detailed. The one thing I will say when I was at South Dakota State the last time, whenever we would hire guys, I always wanted to hire either guys that had been a coordinator or wanted to be a coordinator. And I always have felt like that's really important because they're going to be detailed. They're going to want to learn. If they want to do the job, then they're going to have to learn how to do the job. And, Jason Eck had been a coordinator at Mankato. Luke Schleisner had been a coordinator at University of North Dakota. Nick McKissick, Luke wanted to be. Now he's with the Jets as the running back coach. Yeah. So you get around people and you want to know what their career path, right, what their goals are. And I think Luke was really good as far as that and big picture wise and knowing things. And those guys can be a really big help as you get going, but then also they're not just in their own little world. They want to know about the whole offense. They want to be involved. They get that stuff. So super excited about Luke and what he's been able to bring to our program. And same thing. His buy-in has been great with what we're doing, and he's excited to be back in the area, in the region. And he always said, I wanted to be a Jackrabbit, and now he do it. So that's
there we go.
Yeah,
awesome. So so the biggest, maybe not the biggest question, but from the outside world, I saw Kevin Marshall was on here earlier, and he called me about a month ago, FCS Nation Radio, and he said, Matt, what do I need to know about Chase Mason? And so Chase Mason is the big question that everyone's wondering about across the FCS landscape. Yeah. When we talked a week ago, you said, or a couple weeks ago, a month ago now, you said, you're happy with this progress, highest ceiling of anyone you've been around. Mentally, he's where he needs to be. He just needs to get those reps now. How are those reps going?
Yeah, they're going really well. He's carrying himself like you want to carry. You see a guy carry himself, like you're the starting quarterback. And, that is something that it's easy to talk about. It's another thing to do it when you've been behind somebody. You've waited your turn. You think you're chomping at the bit, ready to go, but it's different, right? And he's transitioned extremely well. He's making really good decisions with the football. He's distributing the ball. He's done a really good job as a runner as well. And obviously we know he's talented in that area. And how we're going to use him that way. I think that we're going to use him to the best of his abilities. And yet, like I told you before, the goal is to have him for 15 games, not for,
Yep.
5 great games. Right. And
Yep.
so that's something that we've worked hard, both scheme wise and just his mindset, because I love his aggressiveness. I love a lot of those things, but it's just understanding, right? Like, hey, the team, what does the team need? The team needs you around. The team needs you healthy and doing.
Yep.
But Chase has really grown a lot mechanically. He's really worked hard to be consistent. I think that was something that I noticed in watching the film that he had played, that we just needed to work on some things. He's bought in. He didn't second guess anything that I have been working with him or asked him to do, and really proud of him, just the way he's gone about his business. Obviously, some people would say there's a lot of pressure. Like I always say, what an opportunity. Forget pressure, man. An opportunity. What a great opportunity. What a chance to get out and do what you wanted to do to come here, right? And be a part of something special and lead it. And just really excited about his growth. He definitely is not complacent. He's working hard and, wants to be the best guy he can be. And I think that's something that isn't always the case in today's day and age of college football. I think some guys like, are you going to take care of me? You're going to, do I get a day off? Do I, what do I get?
Yeah.
And so just really excited about Chase, his growth physically, mentally, but just really becoming a quarterback. And there's a big difference between being talented and running plays and playing quarterback. And he's done a really good job of understanding situational football, and things that we want to do and where he's at on different parts of the field, and how important it is to maybe hit a check down or tuck it under and run. The other day, all of a sudden we saw a 2-man and he pulls the ball down and runs. Well, there's nobody for the quarterback once you get past line of scrimmage. And just the awareness of knowing that, is a big deal. That was something when we beat NDSU in Fargo, and Taryn had about a 50-yard run. Deal was 2-man and he just took the ball up the middle, but that's understanding, right? Like that's part of the development of the position and in the growth, and Chase has been really just continuing to grow daily.
Yep. So, they posted a video of, I don't know I just think it was just in shells, but him flipping the ball to Grayton Gannon 25 yards down the field and making it look effortless, right where it needed to be. Where would he stack up in terms of the quarterbacks you've had in terms of arm talent? Whether it's Taryn or Ryan Berry or Austin or whoever.
Yeah. His arm strength is second to none of them, honestly. Very, very strong. He's where he's grown the most is making the different types of throws. So the velocity is there. We've worked a lot on second level throws. We've worked a lot on deep ball throws, just, the trajectory that you need on those balls and those things, because he does have such a strong arm, but there's certain times like you're not going to throw it through the second level. You gotta put some air in the ball. You got to be able to drop it in there. So, he's worked really hard at developing that stuff. But yeah, his arm strength is really, really good. Probably the biggest thing is when his feet are right, and he gets his body in the position it should be. He's really, really deadly. He can really put the ball where it needs to be. Now it's the consistency, right? Like it's just got to happen all the time. And when we first started working, it didn't happen enough, and then it got better, and then it got better, and now it's doesn't happen a lot that he doesn't do it. And he's getting to a point where he can kind of self-correct, and I think that's a big deal. When you miss on something, you're like, I need to do this, because hey, football's not a game of perfect. It's not. You're always striving to be perfect, but there's human element involved, and everybody is doing things. So you drop him back 1, 2, 3, throw. No, drop back 1, 2, 3, make this guy miss, step up, or whatever it may be. And he's worked really hard in his game. But yeah, from a talent standpoint, he has everything you would want, physical tool wise. The only thing he's lacking right now is just flat out game experience of being the guy. And but he's done everything he can control to put himself in position to, be ready game one and then never look back.
Perfect. All right. You mentioned these first few weeks being super important for the rest of the guys in this quarterback room. How are they looking right now, and how are things shaking out?
Yeah, they're doing a good job. They really are. They're learning, they're growing. It is a young group, for the most part. And I do think that it's a talented group that is they're learning mentally, they're picking things up, they're starting to process faster. I think, the other day, the one thing that young guys don't understand is in college football they're going to disguise things, and then it's going to change. Like, well, I thought it was cover 4, and then all of a sudden they rolled and it's cover 3. And what they're learning is, okay, when my movement key goes away from what I thought it was, I have to have the next step that fast, right? I got to know where I'm going with the football. So maybe my field is my 2 high side and my boundary is my 1 high side, and that boundary safety is rolling to the deep middle. What I thought I was going to do just instantly has to change, and I got to get my eyes, going to my boundary read. And that is something that a lot of people don't realize, that it can change that fast. And sometimes they're like, why don't we throw that guy the ball more? Well, cover dictates some things too, right? And
Yep.
so, but they're learning, right? They're doing those things. They're going to make some mistakes. And hey, mistakes are not a problem. You just learn from them and you grow, and we talk about them, and then we develop drills that can get them processing faster. Right now, Luke Marble is doing a nice job. At running with the second group. We've worked in Henry there as well from Del Rapids, and he's grown, he's gotten better. Thuy is still coming back from his injury, but he has been able to do some 7-on-7. He's been able to do drill work, which is
Good.
His hard work getting to where he is really got to be commended. I mean, the kid he's a fierce competitor. I'm excited for him to get healthy, that way, so he can get in and do more team stuff and some of those things. But I do think that the group is very competitive. They're competitive with themselves, and yet they're very supportive of each other. And I think that's one thing that I've always tried to do, is make sure that, hey, you don't want to win the job because he screwed up. You want to win the job because you're the best guy. And if you're the best guy, then we're the best team. And I think keeping that mindset, because when Sumner went down after play 8 against Missouri and Lujan came in, he was ready to go, and I think that's so important, and whereas and Sumner helped him, right? Like while he was learning, he was helping him. And it's not like, well, I'm worried about myself and I don't want this guy to, no, we're going to grow together. And I think that's something, and you just don't know when somebody is going to take off and just really it's going to click. And that group, the younger group, is at that point right now that, some things are starting to slow down. They are.
Good.
And the things seem like they're still going really fast. And that's part of learning college football and growing. And proud of that group and the way they're working. I'm proud of, the chemistry in that group right now. But I do think that there's some good young pieces, and I'm excited for them to continue to develop. But after 1 week, I've seen progress, and hey, let's face it, when you get into fall camp, you're seeing more defense than you're going to see on a week, because everybody's ready there. And that's good, though, because then you have more things to teach off of. And like I tell those guys, you got to put that on your hard drive, and you got to be able to draw from that later on, so that you can, make good decisions. And then, I do think this, right? Like turning over the football, that's a choice. A lot of times you have the ball in your hand. What are you going to do with it? Right. Am I going to throw the check down? I'm going to try to force it into a tight window. What is it? Well, that comes down to situational football, right? It's 3rd and 8. I drop it off. It goes to 4th and 1. Let's go get the first down, and so where if I force it in there and we miss it, now it's 4th and 8. Now we're punting. And so I do think that just changing the mindset, not like, well, I'm just going to try to throw it in there. That's the wrong answer. And I think they're starting to learn that as well. And then obviously the speed at which defensive backs, the ground that they cover is a lot quicker.
Mhm.
So the anticipation piece, like, right, the other day I had a film on with the offense, and I stopped it, and Graham was one step from the DB, and I asked the guys, I go, is he open? And half the people said no, and I go, he is open because he's running full speed, and that guy's backing up. You have to understand that he's going to continue to go by him. The ball needs to be in the air right now, not
Sure.
once he's that's, but that's anticipation, that's getting used to it, that's timing, that's chemistry. Chemistry is something we're really trying to build because we don't have a lot of banked reps with each other, all that way. So excited about that group, really am.
Yeah, cool, man. I'm glad you're back. This is such good stuff. This is exciting just to have you teaching these young guys again. This is good.
It's fun. It is.
All right, we have one more. I have another sponsor I have to plug here.
Yep.
Quick. So we have this year new to the mix, Dreamers Do Travel by Amy Dix. Her husband Brian's a longtime listener here of the show. Got a chance to visit with them about what they do or what Amy does. Lots of Disney trips and things like that. There is you don't pay Amy. Amy just helps you line up and schedule the trip of your dreams, takes the stress out of it. And so get a hold of Amy. She's on our website or will be soon. And in some of the blogs, we have her contact information, but they can definitely help you get that vacation stress-free, all lined up and scheduled for you. So thanks, Amy, for your sponsorship. Really appreciate it. So, Coach, with your quarterbacks, the quarterback's best friend is a tight end, a good tight end, and South Dakota State's produced a lot of good ones over the years. You brought back Coach Benedetto from Sioux Falls Jefferson, where he was the head coach and kind of launched that program, which is really awesome. And a really fun group, a couple of veteran guys, a couple of transfers, some young guys with lots of talent. Obviously, we've seen Grayton Gannon in that highlight loop there. What can you say about this group?
Yeah, it's, first of all, Coach Benedetto's done a great job. And him coming back is really cool because I was able to coach him. Then he GA'd for me. And I remember when he was GA'ing, he was talking about, being a high school coach and getting started and wanting to eventually, make the jump to college. And what a great thing, that way. So huge advantage because a lot of the terminology, a lot of the things that we do, he can relate to. Played and when he was a graduate assistant for us. But now obviously there's some new things and he's grown. He's had some really good players go on and play at a high level. He had a tight end that's going to go to Michigan State.
Yeah.
And that's the only downfall of him because he wasn't able to get him to come here. But no, he's doing a great job. And those guys are working hard. Now, that is a group that doesn't have a ton of experience. Drayton does. And he's definitely the leader of that group from a knowledge base. He makes plays when the ball is thrown his way. He's going to catch it. He's going to be in the right position from a blocking standpoint, and do what he needs to do. And I think he's kind of Mr. Consistency as far as what we're going to get. And we're going to move him around and do different things with him, which I'm excited about. And, so then it really comes down to development, right? And Grayton's going to be kind of a move tight end for us. Kind of what Dallas Goddard started out in his career as a young tight end, where he moved him around. He played flexed out some, and then he played, inline some and did some things like that. Excited about him that way. Dave has played, a smaller sampling of snaps, but he has played. And I think, he was hampered by injuries this winter, so really missed spring ball. But was, engaged and locked in on what it was. He got healthy. He's doing a good job. He's going to be more of an inline tight end for us. He's going to be a guy that's going to be more of a point of attack, type guy. We had a transfer, Jalen Thompson from University of Iowa. I recruited Jalen out of high school, and then Iowa offered him but had a good relationship with him. And he came in, hasn't played a lot of football because he's a young guy too, but man, ended spring on a high note. He's having a really good fall camp right now. Very explosive kid. He's going to play mostly our inline tight end as well, but really just happy with his growth, that way, and picking up a new system and transitioning to a new school. And there's just a lot that goes into learning the terminology and all those things, those guys. And then, De La Hoyd, or Delahoyd is extremely talented guy. Learning how to play the game of football, man. But I tell you what, just throw him a ball. He's a natural catcher. He's very competitive. He's fierce from that standpoint. Now, technique-wise, he learns every day. And the good thing about him is usually I have a unit cut up that I do daily with everybody. We'll watch anywhere from 7 to 10 clips, and I'll point things out on film, good, bad, everything else. And like I tell people, hey, we've got to be, we got to have thick skin in here, but that's everybody, right? That, and that's how we grow. That's how we learn. And if it isn't challenging, it's hard to change. And so, but I'll put him on, and some things he can do better, but things that then all of a sudden 2 days later, he's on for great plays. Cool. And I do think that his ability, his ceiling is extremely high. We've got to get him, to that level sooner than later, and play a really good part, in it that way. Andrew Gusted from Volin, South Dakota, Mr. Consistency. Now, here's a guy that knows where he's supposed to be, what he's supposed to be doing. He's going to play more of our fullback type position and be used that way, but he knows everybody's spot. Like, the guy puts in his time, he studies, he does what he needs to do, which is super exciting. The other day, Coach Jackson was talking, because we have this catapult system and it charts how many yards you've run, your workload and speed. Well, he had the highest rating of 90% of his speed of all his reps, than like way more than anybody else. Like, really? The whole practice at 80% or higher, but 90%. But that's just who he is, right? The kid gives you everything he's got. He does those things, and South Dakota State's been successful with guys that do that, right? And that's a credit to him and the way he's playing and the stuff that he does that way. And then, it's just one of those things that what we're working through right now, and what we kind of identified is who can play where. And I think that we went into it thinking one thing. We spent a lot of time talking about, especially the tight end position. We talk a lot about, what they can do, what they can handle, because we have so many guys that haven't played a lot of reps. Okay. Because of that, we're trying to keep them in a position and not move them around. And because the flex tight end spot and what they have to know versus the inline tight end spot is very different. And you could have this skill set to play flexed out, but there's a lot of things to learn being out there. So sometimes, you got to walk before you run. And so we're trying to put them into those positions to be able to do those things. And so right now, those are the main tight ends that have stepped up.
Coach, what about Coleman Coons? Is he?
He's not cleared yet. So
okay, sounds good. Sorry. Yep.
I'm very confident in him. Like, he's awesome in the meeting room, and he understands, and he does some things an individual, but I can't. He's going to play for us. There's no doubt about it. I don't know if we're going to use him as a flex out guy. I don't know if we're going to use him, inline, but he's probably the most savvy player we have from. I mean, talk about reps. Now, he's got a lot, but he hasn't done any team stuff yet. So he will be, though, and he'll get there. And but I can't quite comment on, it's kind of like, we'll see. No, I mean, him and there's certain guys like, Julius at running back, they have a track record of productivity. and you know that they can play football, but how you're going to use them and what they're best at. And that's really important at the tight end position, to be able to kind of highlight their abilities. And we've done a good job with that in the past, and just not wasting a guy or asking him to do something he really isn't good at. And but he is a smart kid, and he picks things up really fast. I just haven't seen him do a lot of stuff yet.
Sure. Sounds good. Well, again, you must have like a background in podcasting or something, because you keep doing these good transitions here. You just mentioned Julius Lowridge, transfer from Fordham. Obviously, the production, you mentioned 3,000-yard seasons in his career. Just a big, thick running back. And then, you have Deontay Cooper leading that room.
Yep.
I loved my interview with Coach Coop. Just such a good energy about him. And obviously the tragic passing of Nate White. But what a good person, I think, to have leading that room right now with the tragedy that happened. So
Coop, super positive. A lot of energy out the practice field. Does a great job of not getting, never getting low, and is always optimistic in a good way. And you hit it right on the spot, right? Like with that group of guys, and the team, but obviously when a guy's sitting beside you, it's a little bit more than because we quite honestly, we had probably over half the team that really didn't know Nate. With all the freshmen that came in and stuff, and they had just gathered. Like there's probably some guys that couldn't hardly pick him out, but now the older guys that knew him and had spent time with them, and obviously his room was really, really close with those guys. So yeah, Coop's doing a really good job, and was always going to be high energy and have really good positive things that way.
Yeah. So obviously, Julius, what have you seen from him so far? I mean, obviously our fan base and others have said, it's the Patriot League. Come on. Like, who cares? But this guy looks legit.
He is. And you can't, that's the one thing when you go to the portal, you really want to get guys that have been productive. You do. And you want to get guys that understand, that have picked up a blitzing corner. They picked up a blitzing backer. They've had to run into pressure. They've run different types of schemes. They've run power. They've run zone. They've run, that kind of stuff. They've caught the ball in the backfield. And when you can look at those things, that's really, really important. And I think that when you look at like the NFL and you look at the NFL draft and you look at those backs that are taken, the guys that are productive in college, they may not even test out as the best, but when they go to the NFL, they've been able to be successful. And I do think that like there's, when you've produced, I mean, that's your resume. And so some guys are testers and some guys are ball players. And not that I don't think Julius will test well, but he can play football. And, he lined up. I mean, one of the first games I watched was him playing against Bowling Green last year. Well, that's not the Patriot League. I can tell you that. And because I played against that defense and they're pretty dang good, that way. But he's got good vision. He does a great job of running behind his shoulder pads. He's never gets too high, never gets too low. He's very intent on details and what you want, and whether it be alignment, whether it be steps, whether it be eyes. He's vocal as a leader for being a new guy. He's not afraid to speak up. Which is awesome. He does a really good job with the young guys in that room, and we have some young guys in that room, from that standpoint. So I think he's done a really good job. If he makes a mistake, he wants to know why. He comes in my office a lot. He wants to talk football. He wants to understand. He wants to know. He knows this is his last deal, right? And so he wants to be in position to have his best year. He came here because he wants to win a championship, at a high level. And I think that's something that, we want guys that love football and want to win. And I think, those things are really good, but he's a really good person from that standpoint. He'll be physical. He's not going to turn it down in the hole, when it's cloudy. I think the one thing you look for in a running back is dirty yards, and dirty yards are when, contact happens or when things aren't great. Anybody can run through a hole that's there, right? Like I can get
Sure.
you then, but you got to be able to create some yards, and sometimes you're going to get in there and you're pushing the pile and you get 4, and that's a really, really good run. And if you're consistent, what you can't do is look for a home run all the time. And I think sometimes with younger backs, guys that aren't experienced, they're always looking for the home run. And the problem is when you look for the home run, you're missing 4, 5, 6. And that was one of the things, like Zenner, like he was patient. He knew what his reads did, and he knew that that's where I'm supposed to run, and I may only get 4 yards this time. But when it does open up, I'm gonna have a big one. And so he had 2 really big runs yesterday in practice that were exciting to see. One of them, he hit the hole and then slid back and found his way through, and the receivers did a really good job downfield, and that was exciting to see because we hadn't really had the pads on, so running around with no pads is, a lot of people look pretty good, doing that, but his maturity is much needed with that room. I mean, it just there's not a lot of people that have taken snaps, and that's why it was really important to try to target somebody and secure somebody who'd played a lot of football. And he's a calming effect in that room, and yet he wants to learn. At Fordham, they were a no-huddle offense, so they just signaled into him what his run was. Well, now he's hearing it. The way they ran some of their plays were a little different than what we do. So maybe his eyes need to be in a different spot, but he wants to know where they're supposed to be and how to do it. There's no listen, man, I've rushed for over 3,000 yards. I know what the heck's going on. He's fun to coach, and Coop's doing a good job with them, and excited about his growth.
Yeah. This has nothing to do with football, but I just love this story that Cooper told me that, he grew up in San Antonio, went to school in New York City, and now he's been out here fishing, shooting clay pigeons, out with Quentin Christensen, on his ranch, like just soaking up the South Dakota life. And I think in this era of portal stuff, where some of these guys can be looked at as like mercenaries in a way, that he's really embracing being in South Dakota. And I think that's cool. I really do love that about him. So
he is. And I will say this, that's one thing that with the transfers we've been able to get and hearing them talk and seeing them interact, they're where their feet are. And I think that's cool. Just what you're talking about. Like, you guys are going fishing? All right, let's go. We're going to go shoot clay. Like, what's a clay pigeon, right? Like, and Quentin's awesome, right? Like, he's going to take one of those guys. I mean, he gets a thrill out of that kind of stuff. And so, but we do have, guys that are very welcoming. And we always felt this from the past that, the nucleus of your team needs to come from, 6 or 7 hours away so that they have the support, those things. Then when you add in some people that are on a different journey, they are from farther away, whether it's Pierre Strong or whoever it may be, right? Like, you have enough people that can take care of them too. So when it's Easter and they have no place to go, somebody's grabbing them and taking where, a lot of this portal time, people are getting from further and further away in a team. And it's not that, other places are wrong. It's just different, right? Like how they grew up, how they act. Their norm is not our norm, and they're not wrong. They're not, and we're not right. It's just this is where we grew up. They grew up, but I do think having the nucleus and the foundation of kids that we have, like Quentin Christensen and some of those kind of guys, they are very welcoming. They're not judgmental. They want to say, "Hey, come experience this." Come over here and ride a horse and, be around a cow. And he probably told them the cow tipping is something they do, but
right. Oh, that's good.
But they enjoy it. And I think the kids that we've had, they're open, right? They want to experience things. It's like I tell them, like, life's a journey. And, you write a chapter of that journey all the time, and you just have to figure out, in the end what you want to be about. I remember having some guys from far away, and their parents were like, I don't know if this is ever going to work. And all of a sudden they graduate and they're living in South Dakota. What the heck, right? So,
Yep.
Sean
Awesome.
Gales is their staff, right? So
That's true.
Chicago. So
yeah. Jim Poppin here says tipping and going snipe hunting. Yep. So all right.
Yep.
So Coach, any of those younger backs you wanna just give a nod to here really quick before we move on to 605 Hogs?
Honestly, we're excited about all of them. You talk to Coop. I'm like, Coop, what do you think? And he's like, man, I like all these young guys. I really do. I do want to say Begman's really had a really good camp so far. And I know he's not a young guy, but he's really done a nice job of, I think, he built on what he started in the spring. And I've seen some good growth out of him. And I do think he's going to be really consistent. From that standpoint, there's still areas of growth that he needs, but I do think that the young guys, different guys flash every day. Corey Blair looks really good here, and then Josiah looks really good here, and then Josh Meyer looks really, like they've all kind of had their times. Then I like. One of them made the film today. I'm like, all right, what the heck is this? What are we looking at? But it's just, it's like that's part of the process. And they are learning at a high rate. They're drinking water through a fire hydrant. I mean, it is going fast for them. But the ability, the talents, the makeup, the character is really, really good. Super excited about, them and where I think they can go. But we have a scrimmage coming up next week and probably have a much better gauge, once contact is really, really happening. But I do think that you'll see one or two of those guys this year play a considerable amount of snaps. And right now, all four of them are doing a good job. So I couldn't tell you who's going to totally surface and not surface, honestly.
Yeah.
It just, they're all here.
Yeah. And like the Missouri Valley, like it takes 4 or 5 backs to get you through a season. So they all got to be ready. So yeah. All right. So we got to talk about the 605 Hogs. You saved them for last year. No school loves their offensive line quite like SDSU. And, Coach Eck all those years ago launching the 605 Hogs thing, who knew that it was going to stick? But man, what can you say about these guys? Sam Hagan, Quentin Christensen, like we talked about, 2 experienced guys, kind of your tackle bookends there. What else?
Yeah, those 2 guys are really unique in a good way. Quentin is team captain. He acts like it. He goes about his business that way. He's working really hard. Obviously missed time this spring, but he's played a lot of football. He is playing really, really well right now. He was on my one of my clips today of just effort and strain. A guy that's clearly the left tackle, and yet he is practicing like he's never started a game and trying to earn, something. Awesome. And there's a lot to be said about that when you can put that up there and younger guys can watch that and see how hard he's going. He does a really good job of picking guys up. He does a really good job of challenging guys in the 605 Hogs. So super excited about that. Sam Hagan's playing at a high level and doing some things. He really grew a lot this spring. Just with what we want him to do, right? And get someplace and you've got to learn and adapt and do those things. Mike Bankston's done a great job with that group up front. They respect him. They really look up to him and what he's having them do. And, I just think that those 2 guys have been really good leaders, for the group. We've got we got a lot of interior guys that are really playing well. Papke, whose dad played here at South Dakota State, is really starting to come into his own. I know he played some last year and stuff, but man, he's acting like a starter. He's carrying himself. The kid's strong as an ox. Really gets after it. Still, another thing, playing really, really, really hard. Big Bo is doing a really good job interior wise. He's going to be our biggest swing guy. He can play guard. He can tackle. The other day, we moved Papke play a little bit of center. You got to look at all angles, right? And then he was playing the left guard spot when Papke was there. Nate is a large human being.
Yes,
So,
yes.
but all our group is big, right? It's just he's a
Yep.
massive guy at guard. But Nate has fit in well. He's bought in. Obviously, he had a lot of suitors, a lot of people that really wanted him to come play for him, felt at home here. I think when he posted his commitment graphic, everybody's like, he's a perfect fit. Big beard stuff, but really has done a really nice job. That way. Just that group and the chemistry that they have is really is special. And I think that's the mark of a good offensive line is it can't be, if you make a fist, you can do some damage. If you have one finger sticking out, you're going to break your finger. And this group is a tight fist. And I think that's something that's really, really neat about them, but definitely Quentin is the guy that is vocal, and he's the guy that is not afraid to challenge people, and he's the guy that's helping the younger guys raise their level, which I think is so cool, because he's a guy that, he's accomplished, right? And it would be easy to kind of sit back and just go, but he has some big goals for us. He's very outspoken about those things and what we got to do to achieve those things. And you don't get that a lot from the offensive line. You really don't. You don't get a guy that are going to stand up in front of the group and, call people out if they need to be called out and do those things. Because, well, for one, it's not fun, right?
Yep.
But, he's just kind of a no nonsense guy. And like when I call people out, I'm just like, hey, this is to get better. And he's like, you don't need to apologize to anybody. Just call him out. And I'm like, well, that's what I'm doing. That's something that's good. He's like a coach on the field for that group. And you kind of want a leader out of everybody's group as you go out there. And I do think we have guys at every spot that are like that, which is really, really cool. So,
okay. So you mentioned Will Papke.
Go ahead.
Yeah, you mentioned Will Papke at center there, or playing center a little bit, but also Shane Willenbring, I know, Caden Hotz is kind of in the battling for that spot too. Yep.
Well, Papke moved over because Shane had a test. And so Shane is our starting center. He's doing a really good job. Like, I know he hasn't played really, but he's ready. And he has got the mindset. He's vocal. He's confident. He'll make the calls. He'll do the things. Hutz was actually the top lineman graded the other day. He led us in knockdowns in practice and did some things. So, one of our goals was to develop 2 more guys that we felt like we could, if somebody went down, they could be a starter. And Hutz is trending that way. And we're super excited about that. We thought based on what he did in the spring, he would do that. And the growth that he's had this summer, we thought that he was going that way, but you still got to make the plays, right? And he's on that track right now at a high level. So you kind of have your starters, your guys that you'd love to just put in the game, and then your guys that can get you through a game. And our goal is to go fall camp or come out of fall camp with 8 guys that we feel like we can play, all the time. If we have more, that's awesome. But if you have 8, now you're hoping you have 2 centers, you're hoping you got 3 interior guys, and you're hoping you got 3 tackles. So if something were to happen, but we will play some guys at different spots, like putting Papke at center a little bit, because let's say that something happened to Shane, and let's say that Big Bo's going in. If he's not starting, well, now he's starting, and then Papke moves over, because maybe that's our best 5. You don't just say, okay, well, this guy backs him up, so we're playing him, even though that other guy's a better player. So you do have to kind of mix and match a little bit. Jackson Kersting's really, improved a ton, and he's a guy we're pushing hard to continue to grow and do some things. So yeah, just really excited about that group. We will go as they go. There isn't an offense out there in college football that you don't say it starts up front. And at South Dakota State, it's been that way for a lot of years. And as the weather changes, you can't lose your identity as a pro. And the 605 Hogs will make sure that doesn't happen.
Yeah, there we go. Hey, so I know we're over an hour here, but one last question, because this has come up a couple times here. Really, just again, this has been terrific. So this question right here, I know someone else asked it earlier, but Chris Howard, what are the differences that Coach E sees in the program from his last time here? What's different?
Well, I do think, and we talked about this the other day, in 2018, one of our goals was, and it had been this way for a little while, was to be a top 8 seed. Because if you're a top 8 seed, then you get a bye. If you're a top 8 seed, you get a home game. If you're a top 8 seed, there's things like that. It's not that way anymore. Like, you're not just saying I want to be a top 8 seed. And obviously you have to be a top 8 seed to put yourself in position to be the number 1. But as we went through the building blocks with Coach Stig, and going from 2009 being in the playoffs and then 2 years not, and then from 2012 on never missing, but it was to be in the playoffs, to be a top 8 seed, to be, it can continue to grow. And I think the mindset of these kids is not to be a top 8 seed, it's to be better. And I think that the guys that are here are doing a great job of conveying that message, and then also understanding that how did we get there? It's through hard work, commitment, sacrifice, those things. It's not through talent. Talent is important, but everything else that goes with it is what wins games. And so I think just the mindset a little bit, that way has changed. I think that obviously the outpouring of support has been felt, and I feel it because I know a lot of people, right? Like people that have been around and stuff. So it's easy when you see people, but people are stepping up, whether you see somebody at the golf course, the grocery store, in Sioux Falls, a lot of different places, and people want to talk about, South Dakota State football, which I do think that that is something, not that they didn't care before, but I do think that there's a little bit more vocal support that way. And I do think that part of it, and I think that kids feel that, which is cool, because when you feel something, it's deep down inside you. And I do think that there is a little bit, maybe just a little bit more that way. So,
all right. Well, Coach, again, thank you so much for joining us here for this hour here. This has been terrific. I know everyone is super excited for that opening game against Sac State, to be back in Brookings to tailgate, and just to go out there and make a bunch of noise for the defense and be super quiet for you on offense. It's going to be a fun night. So, yeah.
No, it'll be a lot of fun. We're excited about it. We got a lot of work to do before we get there. But, man, that's what you work hard for, is to get to this time of the year.
Yep. Well, there we go. Thank you very much. And thanks, everyone, for being here, all the great questions, and for following along. We'll get this posted on the podcast, and make sure you like and share it. And with that, Coach, go big, go blue, go Jacks.
Jack.